No, he's not.
When you bring a bag of lollies, okay, that's how it works.
Sorry. Okay, everyone, welcome back. My apologies, it's me that's slowing the team down now, but I was sure that I had more time than that for lunch. So welcome back, councillors, staff, media, and also a special warm welcome to the public. Thank you for coming and assisting us, and also welcome back to ex-Deputy Mayor Hamish. Welcome back to your chambers, Hamish. Good to see you. Where am I? Right, as the feds are online. So, okay, everyone, if we could please turn to page 54, Federated Farmers. Welcome, team. I can't read your names, not with my eyesight, but welcome, and the floor is yours. 47, yeah.
Hemi and Eleanor, Brian.
Sorry?
Hemi and Eleanor.
Welcome, Hemi and Eleanor, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the kind and warm welcome, Council. We greatly appreciate the opportunity to discuss Southern Water done well with you today. And thank you kindly for facilitating us and the community. We acknowledge the submission of other members of the rural community, and we thank them for providing their views. We've put significant effort into our submission and seeking the views of rural land users, because we understand the importance of this conversation today. Today, we'd like to talk to you briefly about the main points of our submission. Affordability. Federated farmers raise concern with costs proposed by local government. Money needs to be spent on bringing rural water schemes up to scratch. This would be set up for stock water primarily, but we've been asked to provide potable water for housing, and as such, often we're captured by regulatory authorities such as Taumata-Hatawai. Governance. As small schemes, much of our governance is provided by local people on a goodwill basis. We're really worried about what a big new combined water company would mean for rural water schemes. We believe small schemes or rural schemes are more successfully run locally with close relationships with local council. The purpose of rural water schemes can be twofold. That is supplying agricultural water in addition to drinking water. We significantly value the agricultural function of water infrastructure, and we are really worried the proposal could disrupt the agricultural functions of water. How agriculture would be addressed by a Three Waters company is unknown to us. We think there could be challenges and competing interests on a CCO board. With these concerns in mind, we conclude in the Clutha district, the risk of a combined company is just too great to support. We understand there will be better access to debt if a combined company is formed. However, we are dubious that this increase in debt would actually benefit rural water schemes. Our preferred option is an internal in-house business unit. This is largely due to the uncertainty presented by all other options. We support council in investigating increased funding for rural water services from central government. We thank the Clutha District Council for the opportunity to speak to the main points of our submission and are open to any questions.
Thank you, team. Questions, Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, and thank you for your submission. I'm just a wee bit curious as to where you've got the bulk of your information for your submission, because in there under 2.1 you talk about stock water races. We don't have any of those. And you talk about unit rates going from $684 to $1,000. That's one scheme out of 9. I was just wondering where you got the information from. My second question is, have you talked to any of the 9 rural water scheme chairs?
So
Are you going to hear me?
I'll try answer that. And I'll try and do that. I understand it's 2 questions, Councillor. So yes, we have, to the first question, we understand there are a number of rural water schemes or stock water races within the Clutha district, and we also understand they have varying prices per unit of what farmers might pay for water in a scheme. And so we have taken an example of one cost per unit, and we understand that's provided, it's a cubic metre of water per day. We understand there are varying prices for water schemes, but we've used one example for a rural water user in this instance, which is just, we see that as a good way of trying to understand the cost of water in the region. And I guess the main point we want to make there is that we're concerned about the increasing cost to farmers that are using that infrastructure. But also, we could equally commend the council and the services they provide in that space, while acknowledging there are varying prices per unit. Now, what was the second question?
Have you had any communication with the 9 chairs of the rural water scheme committees who represent farmers?
Yes, we have.
So,
Excuse me, just following on from Councillor
Herbert.
Councillor Herbert. Sorry about that, Eleanor. So you say you have with all the 9 chairs of
So we have had not all of them specifically, but we have had contact with them. Stephen Jack is one that we have been talking to.
Stephen's not a chair.
Council this morning.
Stephen's not a chair.
Stephen's not a chair.
Apologies. Okay. So we've talked to Stephen, who I think talked to council this morning.
Right, so that's all you've spoken to out of the water scheme chairs, because we've actually got a very good working relationship with our local water scheme chairs.
We're looking, when we're doing these submissions, we're looking at it also in the context of the other councils as part of the Southern Water Dome Well. So we're looking at also at the bigger picture of what is involved. And I think, as Hemi has pointed out, it is the very complexity of what is proposed. And so when we're looking at Clutha in particular, the concerns that we are raising are related to that complexity and how that will work. So that is where the focus of what we put in our submission is about.
Right. Whereas the council will be working very closely with our water scheme chairs to get a complete understanding of what they want moving forward. So hence Mr. Councillor Herbert's question, how close have you been working with our chairs? Like, no disrespect to Gore, Waitaki or Central Otago, our primary focus is on our ratepayer base and the people we're closely connected with, not as a whole.
Yes, and so as Federated Farmers, I think we represent close to about 360 members just in the Clutha area, and so we're representing the concerns that they have in terms of the rates invoices that they receive and the cost pressures that they have on what is potentially proposed. So what we're putting forward is literally just looking at what are the risks or worries or concerns that our members have and what is proposed. And so the focus of our submission, I guess, is just raising those questions in terms of what those risks will be for our members.
Yes, and we're fully aware of them as well through our water scheme.
Well, it's very good to hear. Good to hear that you have that working group with the chairs. That's very good to know.
Can I take it one step on from there? Because I'm rather surprised that Federated Farmers, we've been working, I still say the best thing that's come out of this whole debacle for 9 years has been the strengthening a relationship with the water schemes, and we've spent thousands and thousands of hours devising plans and going through proposals and working with the group, with them taking the lead, I might say. You know, they're not a group that are backward and coming forward. And today they've come out with a submission that's directly at a tangent with yours. I did note that there's been the comment, even when Councillor Herbert said about stop races. We don't have stop races, but there was also the comment on the small water schemes. So Clutha has the third longest water reticulation network in New Zealand, because we've got behemoth water schemes like no other council in New Zealand. And you said that you also took in the considerations for the farmers and the likes of Central Otago and Gore. Central Otago doesn't have one drop of rural water scheme. They're private schemes, totally different. And the main difference for our one is that we're mixed use. So out of the 77 mixed use schemes in New Zealand, we have 12. And consequently, it just worries me. Where are we going with this? That the rural water scheme chairs unanimously today supported at the tangent that's different. So I'd like to just explore more the canvassing, the direct canvassing you did with your Clutha district members.
I guess what we're thinking about is the complexity in relation to that CCO unit in terms of how that would work. What would happen to, I guess, for those water schemes in terms of that local control, that oversight and that knowledge? Like how would that connection of those chairs be related to how the CCO would operate?
So yeah, I really appreciate that. And over the last 4 or 5 years, the multitude of meetings we've had with the scheme chairs and the scheme groups to work over the complexities for them to today come out with their preferred option, because they haven't just done this ad hoc. They've spent years and years working collaboratively with us, but also independently with themselves. So can I please just go back? It was unclear to me. You said that you had spoken to chairs of schemes, but then you gave one member that was a member of the scheme.
I apologise. I had thought that, I thought Stephen was a chair, so I apologise for that. So I was incorrect.
Thank you. Further questions, team. Councillor Ludman.
Hi, thank you for coming to present. I'd like to ask the question. You made the comment that there were 360 people, or you had 360 in the Clutha district that you supported, I guess as Federated Farmers members. Can you tell me how you liaised with them in regards to their preferences for this, and how you then collated their preferences to come up with your option 3? I'd like to know the process you went to get the information that you've put on behalf of your members.
We have, Federated Farmers have an executive, so we have local members that are within each of the districts in the areas, and those local members are very well connected with their communities, and so that is something that they provide feedback on what's happening at the local area. We also get contacted by members that have concerns about what is happening. We provide feedback to members about which consultations are happening, so they know what is happening and also what feds are submitting on. So we do have a network of connection that we rely on in situations like this. And because there are a lot of these local water done well submissions happening at the same time, this has been a priority for us in trying to get feedback from members for us.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I don't know that it actually answers the question of how you went about getting the feedback other than from your executive, which isn't actually talking to members on the ground. But it's fine.
I might be able to provide some as the writer of the submission, I could probably provide some clarification around that. So when we're working in a policy sense in terms of constructing the submission, we're working extremely closely with the provincial representation on the ground in the locality, so that we're ensuring that we're representing their views in a fair and transparent manner. And I guess what we're trying to communicate is that the provincial representation that we work with democratically elected to hold particular views and then communicate them to us. And essentially, as a policy advisor, I'm carrying out their orders on their behalf.
Thank you.
Further questions, Tim? Councillor Martin.
Hear me, kia ora, hear me. Under 6.1 general comments, you've got here, federated farmers have concerns with the dynamics between local government and iwi in the regions. Where do you see there's an issue in the Clutha district region with iwi and local government being us?
Yes, kia ora. Thank you for the question. And the Southern Water Done Well is spread over 4 district councils. And so that's important to note, firstly, and 3 regional territorial authorities. And so it's actually hard to specifically identify one certain area or resource management issue or anything like that. But I see that as a general comment that the submission carries.
Right, so it's a comment, not a concern.
It's a concern.
So it's a concern. And yet we don't know how it's going to unfold.
That's the concern, yes.
Yes.
That we don't know how it is going to unfold.
That's right.
Yeah.
And yet we've brought iwi into it. And we don't know if they're going to be involved.
Well, there is if you look at some case examples of resource management in the 3 regions which we're working in here, you could probably point to some examples where, the cost of the environmental compliance under RMA processes is continually increasing. And when you need to meet a higher bar of environmental compliance, that then in turn affects how much you need in your budget to spend on infrastructure, I guess.
Oh, don't worry, Hemi, we're fully aware of that. We deal with Te Maro otherwise, so we're fully aware of hidden costs and what it costs to get it across the line. Thank you.
Any further questions, Tim? If not, can I please thank you both for the presentation. It's given us another dimension to think on. Appreciate it, and it was a well-written and thought-out presentation. So thank you for your perspective. Have a good day, team. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Hamish, welcome. You know the drill. So, to the front of the book for page 4. Welcome.
Thank you, Brian. Your Worship, councillors, members of staff and fellow submitters, thank you for the opportunity to submit to you today. My submission is very simple. It's not in depth at all. And as you mentioned, Brian, I used to be on this council, and for as long as I can remember, the 3 waters have been a vexatious issue, and it doesn't look like it's changed one little bit. In fact, looks as though it's got worse. And as we go through life, many people make us do many things, whether we're a council or an individual. And sometimes we think that that's not right and that's not fair. It's going to cost us a lot of money. But in the democratic process that we've got, that is the way that the world works. So I'm not here to litigate whether the 3 options are the right or wrong. I think the CCO appears on paper to be the best option because it imposes the least cost on our community. Our community doesn't like paying for things, but that's a reality in life often. And some of the things that we are going to have to pay for is because of things that have happened in other areas. My submission is really around the importance of the governance of the CCO. And I think that the success of the CCO will be dependent on getting the right governance, who appoint the right management in place for the CCO. And to that end, it may be that nobody from the Clutha district is actually a representative on the governance board. It may be that half the governors don't even reside in the 4 council areas. It's about getting the best people who will deliver the best outcome. As an example, we're involved with the local hospital, Clutha Health First. Only one of the governors on the health delivery board resides in the Clutha district, but those other governors do an excellent job and they're committed to the job they do. So I think, when it comes to the appointment of the governance for the CCO, that, with the appropriate skills matrix and the appropriate thought going into it, if you do that, then you'll get the right governors, and that will be a very good start. And I think that will go some way to answering Federated Farmers' questions, the loss of local control, because get the right people, you get the right job done. So that's essentially all I've got to say.
Thank you, Hamish. Questions, please? I've got one, Hamish, because I was thinking, you've had so much experience directorship-wise, and you guys have done such a great job down at Clutha Health. The success of this whole second iteration, the local water done well, was that the mayors were meant to embrace each other in a grand kumbaya, and we would go down to 2 or 3 groups. It had to be that we went bigger. We're the only group in the South Island that we are still saying, come one, come all, we want to talk. But we're still now looking at 17 organised groups, be it in-house or not. Some of them might not be going for. Anyway, we've got 17 different groups. How, because you said we've got to, but what advice do you have to get the best directors? Because it's not going to be done on financial. If we stick to the budget, it's pretty slim pickings to put your house and everything that you got on fiduciary responsibility for this. Rocks in your head might be what it is, but how are we going to do it?
Well, you just have to go out to the, I was going to say the marketplace, but that puts the wrong emphasis on it. You just have to go out and seek the directors you want and advertise for the skills that you particularly want, and make the budget fit. So it's about getting the best bang for your buck, so to speak. And I think if you get the right directors, and you talk about 17 different groups, no doubt good directors will have a liaison with down and up to get that feedback from the local communities. Bad directors will think they can do it all, and that's when you start getting in trouble. It's not going to be easy getting the right directors, but you've got to do your best.
Would you, I'm trying to think of the scope there, cast the net out. Would you Australasia, New Zealand, South Island? Where would the net go?
Oh, well, I would hope that with, you go probably New Zealand wide, and, considerable savings can be made by the modern technology we've got. You don't necessarily have to sit in the same room, but I'm also a believer of the water cooler principle, that a lot of good decisions are made by interactions that you don't necessarily get through a Zoom meeting. But, I think the governance cost is going to be a small part of the total scheme. So it's critical you get good governance, and then good governance will probably result in savings within the whole operation. Bad governance will result in bad, outcomes and cost blowouts.
True. Further questions, please, team. He's itching to leave.
I've got things to do.
Oh, right. Sorry. Okay, if there are no further questions, thanks as always, Hamish. Your insights well thought out and delivered. Appreciate your input. Pamela Moore's next on page 93. Welcome, Pamela.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I was told by a councillor that council is like a business. Well, a business would not keep borrowing like council has done. For every dollar you borrow, there is a corresponding amount in interest to be paid. A business in any sort of financial crisis would first of all stop all nice to haves and then start shedding staff. And I realise that's not popular. It's shock horror. It means someone's losing their job. And that isn't fair. What isn't fair is someone like me getting $445.99 a week, including the winter allowance, paying for someone who, even on a minimum wage, will be getting twice as much to do an unnecessary job. And that is one of the reasons I'm against option one, because you have spent, by your own admission, millions of dollars on bringing Three Waters in-house. That means you must have knowledgeable staff already employed at council. By going with a CCO, bosses will be employed. We don't need bosses at their inflated salaries. Option three would probably require more staff, but those staff would come at a much lower cost. Plus, you have already spent money on, basically, option three. Let's imagine you personally are redecorating your lounge. You have had to borrow to purchase the required materials. However, once finished, you don't particularly like the wallpaper. Because you've borrowed that money, there is no way, unless you're an idiot, that you would borrow more money, strip off that wallpaper, and start again. Another reason I'm against option one is, as you've said yourselves, you will have the ability to borrow more money. Don't you think you've given the ratepayers of the Clutha district enough debt already? Borrowing equals higher interest payments, and putting the water debt into a CCO doesn't make it magically disappear. We, the ratepayers, will still be liable for that debt and the interest. You are scarily like the people who borrow on their visa to pay the minimum charge on said visa, only to be shocked to find the minimum charge is even higher the next month. We should be trying to pay down debt. Reason three, option one, is not democratic. The government can be voted out if they're not doing what the majority of taxpayers want. Council can be voted out if you're not doing what ratepayers want. However, it appears this CCO cannot be voted out by ratepayers. We would be stuck with them. And lastly, these so-called savings if we go with option one. Listening to Mr. Mayor, all I could think of was, where have I heard all this before? Oh yes, when I was living in Auckland and we were being fed the bullshit that amalgamation with all councils in Auckland was the only way forward, that we would save so much money, that our rates would be reduced. Guess what? They were never reduced. They went up, doubled in a very short space of time and have kept going up ever since. Labour decided to join all of the universities together, which is being dismantled now because it costs so much more money, and there are other examples. A bureaucratic entity grows, more chiefs, less Indians, until it is so top-heavy it almost falls over, and we don't want that. There are savings to be made in-house. I hear about farmers getting together a buying group, but I've always wondered why our council staff aren't calling their counterparts in other nearby councils and saying, hey, here are our projects for the next 6 months. Do you have any at the comparable? We could join forces and buy in bulk. Now there's a suggestion. We should have been doing that decades ago. Please don't vote for option one, which means more debt on an already overcommitted ratepayer base. No more savings than in-house, probably less because of the higher salary bosses, and an entity which can get, and probably would, completely out of control. I asked the Mayor this question, which I haven't received an answer for. Did you borrow in anticipation of the millions of dollars you were going to get from the Labour government? I believe you did. Did none of you stand up and say, let's wait until it's in the bank? Obviously not. Do you think this was good handling of other people's money? Of course not. Please do the right thing this time and vote for option three.
Thank you for that, Pamela. Questions taken? I do have a question, Pamela.
Yep.
I don't know when you asked me the question.
Hi, Pamela. Oh, Pam. Yep.
You said that you asked me a question, something about did
Yes,
we
did you
borrow
borrow?
or something, but
Yes, it was in my email to you. Did you borrow in anticipation?
the submission to me.
No, in the email I sent you before we had submissions, I
Oh,
said,
sorry, I haven't seen it.
that's
It's
okay.
supposed to
I
be- So simple answer, I can answer now is no. But do have
Oh,
a.
can I just reply to that? So you borrowed upwards of $137 million, knowing that it was going to be ratepayers that are going to have to pay it back. I don't know if you use the OCR rate. I don't know what the interest rate is, but on $1 million, the OCR is 18 months. The interest only on 1 million is 18 months of my total income.
So
So
can I, my next question would be.
Yep.
Councillor has two levers. If we don't borrow to pay what is an imperative, because if we don't meet consents, we go to court and then we come back. So we can either borrow or charge through rates. They're the only two. So you're saying if we don't borrow, then all we can do is charge more rates. Are you wanting more rates?
what I'm asking is that you put out, first of all, you don't borrow for unnecessaries, you only borrow for absolute necessities. I'm sure that if you put out to people, because I understand you kept the rates down at 4%, but you borrowed to do that. So why didn't you put out a thing to the ratepayers and say, look, we either borrow this money and you're going to have to be paying interest on it for 4 years, or we'll put your rates up.
We most definitely,
doubly.
we went out in consultation and did that. What is the balance? And overwhelmingly it came back. They would rather have that short period.
Did
That
you
was a
say you were going to
consultation
borrow?
question.
You were going to borrow? Wow.
That was
That's why there's only 300 and something submissions, because the ratepayers are so apathetic. I can't believe that.
No, but
It's short term.
Sorry, we shouldn't get into debate, but
No.
that was consulted on, and overwhelmingly the feedback from the consultation was, we want you to balance both levers, not just hit us with the one of rates. Councillor Herbert.
No, I was just pointing to clarify, Your Worship.
Any further questions taken? If not, thank you, Pamela. That was a well thought out, and thank you for, you put it away and it was good going. That's what we need. Thank you. The next one's William. William's on page 61. Welcome, William. The floor's yours.
Okay, I'm here today to push to vote for option 3. If you vote option 1, it is so the council is able to borrow more money. Why do we want to borrow more money? We should be paying back the loan we got, not borrowing more money. The ratepayers can't afford it. It is all right for the council to go out with the extravagant, ridiculous ideas on the expectation of borrowing more money. But it is you, the mayor and councillors, who have the final say. We vote you in to look after us. So far, you haven't been doing that very well. All you seem to be doing is looking after yourselves. When council presents their information on a new project, do you look at that and just tick council's preferred option? Or do you do your own research? Because that is what you should be doing. You should, where are we? We should have, one says haven't done it right. I urge everyone to vote option 3. My reasons for this is, in the long run, it is going to be the most beneficial to the area and the ratepayers. We should not have to build, rent or find other premises to run this project from. We've already got a system in action now. We have a council building. They do not need a big area. They just need an office to start with. All I can see the council wanting to do is spend more money. Money we haven't got. Money we don't want to borrow. You're talking about the savings going with option 1. But if we go to option 1, according to what I have heard from the mayor, we will lose control of our own water system. This is not what Clutha needs or wants. We need to have the control of our own water system, not have other identities controlling it for us. The mayor was telling us that we will get more savings with option one. Why? There's no reason we can't have just as many savings, if not more, with option three. We've already got a system working. We don't have to build a new system. By coordinating with our projects with other councils and forming a buying group, and staying separate, it's not saving council wants option 1 for. It's more borrowing power, no more loans. You have been voted to do a job, but you're not doing the job. You are paying thousands of dollars an hour to get an expert in to advise you when it's something you can research yourselves, saving the ratepayers money. The experts don't live in the area. They don't really know what we need. They are going on what they work for, and they're just doing it for the money. People now are sick and tired of having all these submissions and crap like that, and council ignoring us. If you did what the people wanted, you would have more people interested in voicing their opinion and council getting respect from voters. So why don't you, for once in your lives, do what you're being voted in to do? And that is listen to the people. We don't need dictators, we need democracy.
Questions, councillors? No questions, Tim? I will say, because you specifically quoted me, and so when I said that there is less control, that is per se. Options 1, 2 and 3, there is no status quo. We're heading into an environment where under all options we lose a degree of control, because even this month it is going through Parliament right at the moment that they're going to bring in an economic regulator that can dictate and intervene on the costs that we charge. We are losing control under options 1, 2 and 3. I think the quote, we need to be quite clear on what it is. One last thing though, option 3, because as governance group, we can only seek the advice of reputable groups. And both Morrison and Lowe and now Brad Olsen have come back saying the most expensive is option 3, the one that you wanted. So everything that you've said is counter to the information that we've got back. How could you please quantify, please explain to me and convince me how it's going to be cheaper?
Well, you've already got a system in circulation now, which for the water. You must have.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So why not just expand on that? It's going to be a lot cheaper than starting up a whole new system. It's got to be.
So, are you aware that the status quo will never exist? The status quo has changed. There's new economic regulator, there are new regulators, there are new rules, and they've considered every single piece of it in this and still come back to us and said, option 1 is the cheapest, option 3 is the most expensive. Are you aware that, as a governance group, all we can do is take advice from experts?
Yes, but these experts, let's be honest, it's been proven that experts aren't always right.
Okay, team, any further questions? If not, thank you very much for that. Appreciate your input, William. Where are we? Beth. Welcome, Beth. So Beth's on page 80. Welcome, Beth. The floor's yours.
I'd just like to thank you all for giving us the opportunity to voice our opinions, whether they be agreed with or not. So Southern Water done well. My biggest concern with option 1 is the fact that you have the ability to borrow up to 500% of the total rate intake. I think this is just an absolute heinous thought to even think of doing that. It will saddle our generations to come with a huge burden of having to pay that debt back. And as has been proved on many occasions, bigger is not always best. Auckland Council being the most striking thing to jump out about that regarding that. There's never been a greater need than now to only spend on the basic infrastructure, and all other spending within our council, I believe, should stop, i.e. grants to any group, no matter who they are across the board, need to be stopped. And any projects that are on the books need to be managed in a very tight and extreme way to keep them within budget. So, and in the option 1, there's no real figures, there's nothing to really know exactly what the cost may be. Too much bureaucracy has been proved in the past. Bureaucracy tends to get bigger and bigger and very top heavy. That's a little bit of a concern that may also happen. I didn't look too closely at option 2 because it was a bit of a mishmash of one or the other. So I believe because you already have in-house water now, that you must have costs there. Take it out into a whole separate entity, which you would have to do. You've at least got something to start with. You've got costs there. You can get you should be able to get a fairly accurate gauge on exactly how much it will cost to run the water. I think it's really important to keep the local rural water schemes involved because they are the ones with the greatest knowledge of how the water operates throughout the district. And I would have thought that you would already have an annual budget for the water that you stick to. I realise that some of the criteria that you're having to stick to is pretty onerous. So I would wonder why, as a council or even with other councils, you don't contact and work with the water regulator to get those, to get the criteria for your water reduced so that it's not so onerous and out of reach for everyone to meet. And I would just like to really finish with, according to the figures that were in the submission process, option 1 compared to option 3, the extra cost to the ratepayer was $673. By year 33-34, it was 226 extra rates. So really, why is it being pushed that option 3 is way too more expensive? I'm sure $200 extra on your rates in 1 year is not too onerous. So that's kind of about it, really. I just think that option 3 is the one to go for because you've always got the option further down the track. If it's not sustainable, you could then maybe work with other councils. Already Waitaki has said that they're not sure that they're going to join with Clutha and Gore, that they may go with Timaru and one of the other councils up there. So it's not certain. That's it.
Questions, team? And can I say, Beth, it's not certain here either. We're exactly the same as Waitaki, so
Right.
nothing's different there.
Okay.
Questions, team? Councillor Finch.
Thank you. Thank you for your submission. You said we should work with the water regulator to get the criteria down so it's not so onerous to meet. Do you not realise we've been having lots and lots of meetings over the last many years to try and get through all this? And if we don't become financially sustainable by putting the plan in by September the 3rd, we can have facilitators come in and commissioners, and then they would take over council. How do you think it would go then when it's taken completely off our hands?
Well, I do realise that. I did do some reading around that, and it's not per se that commissioners would come in and take over. You would be appointed a one regulator to come and work alongside you,
Facilitator, yeah.
draw up a plan. Then it goes to central government and they either approve it or not. If that's how it has to be, that's how it has to be.
Okay, so you're aware of that. Thank
Yes,
you.
yes. Yes, I did some homework on that one because I was unsure.
Well done, thank you.
Further questions, Tim? Councillor Volwell.
Thank you, thanks, Beth. You mentioned the figure of $200, saving of $200.
An increase to the rates of $200.
Increase to the
Yes.
rates. At present, that's probably a 7% increase on rates. Rates, I mean, we regard any increase of that magnitude as being quite significant in rates per annum, per year.
That's right.
But you don't think that's a bother at all?
Well, I think the rates, when they were kept at 4% all those years, was just straight out stupidity, because had it been kept at a more reasonable level, there would have been more money in the pot to pay for the basic infrastructure. So 7%, fine.
It's not.
I think it's a reasonable average figure, better than 24%, better than having one great big hit or a big increase year on year because there hasn't been enough charged previously. I'd rather have a bit more than less, to say, hey, we're keeping the rates at 4%. What do you do? Who is that benefiting? It is not benefiting the ratepayers.
Okay, thank you.
And I would just ask that council please listen to the ratepayers, take their views on board, because they're the ones that are having to try and find the money to pay the costs.
Can I just get a clarification here, please, Beth? Because firstly, councils can't just rate, we want another couple $100 to put in the bank.
I
You can't do
realise
that.
that.
You got to rate. So therefore, when the 4% rate cap was on, and it was in a different era, and it's been taken off now for 3 years, but when it was, let's say 5 years ago, somehow we do what you say and we rate extra, what would that have been used for?
Well, I mean, you could have, if you had a surplus, you could have put that aside for infrastructure
No,
and
you're
pay for it
not,
in
you're
the
not allowed
future.
to do that. You can only rate for projects and costs that
Right,
you've done
okay.
that year.
Okay,
But I put it to you that 5 years ago, if we hadn't done it, we would have put it to roading and would be in an even worse place than now. So I'm really proud of the fact that while it had its fragility, and I'll openly acknowledge that, we managed to take our Clutha District Council from one of the highest, we're in the higher quartile of rates, and we're now in the lower quartile of rates to start this whole debacle with. I would far prefer our starting point to be there than having spent money on roading and be there and then have to spend it on water. Would have been a totally different situation. So that's the confines that we work in. We can't just build up a kitty.
Shane,
No,
did
you're welcome.
Invercargill not do that? They're sitting quite secure.
Invercargill's one city with, I think they've got 2 water plants and 1 sewage plant. One and one.
Right.
Bigger population, 1 and 1. We've got 27 for 99,000 people. The
Right.
longest water reticulation in New Zealand. We're exposed in a totally different way. But Beth, I thank you for coming in and challenging. That's exactly what the process is for. It's given us an insight. I better check with the team. Are there any further questions? There's not. Thank you for your
Thank you.
time. Appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Our last speaker who was going to be here was Shona. Shona's not going to be here, so I should put the offer, because I said there's a number in the back there. Is anyone that's come in speaking in the next session actually busy this afternoon, wants to get on with their life and wants to do the presentation now and take Shona's place?
Yeah.
Who was that? Sorry, someone put their hand up. Please, sir, come up. What was the name again?
David Weber.
Welcome, David. You're the next one on the list anyway. So welcome, David. David's on page 125. Welcome.
Good.
Appreciate you giving us your time. Floor is yours.
Okay.
Is it okay if I sit?
Oh, we didn't just.
They just want to sit, Jules.
Yeah. I'm just going to so they can see it.
Yes.
Welcome, the floor is yours.
Right, thank you for your invitation and for
Pleasure having
speaking
you.
to this meeting today. I've just got a few bullet points here that I'd like to draw your attention to. It's mostly ways of saving water that I'm pretty sure the council hasn't had a put forward to them in the past, but I'm sure that most of them are pretty well straightforward anyway, but just let you know. Firstly, identify and fix the leaks and the unknown draw-offs. 28% loss in the water supply, in my mind, is rather high. And even if you spent 10% of whatever it costs a unit at identifying and fixing those problems, you'd be better off. Secondly, look into the amount of processed water needed. At the moment, it is all processed like chlorinated, I guess, and so forth. But how much of actually cold water are we actually drinking? I'm suggesting only, a litre a week at most. Most of it is boiled, drank in coffees, so forth. And the rest is just used, flushed down the toilets, and used in baths and goes down into processed in the sewage outlets. So in my mind, it would be much more advantageous if every household had a tank collecting their stormwater and had it filtered, even if the council brought the filters and supplied the filter. Even if you had 5 filters in a row, you'll still end up with a better water supply and at less cost to the public. And third point being, you have in front of you a paper, you got it on the wrong side there, just draw your attention to the picture mostly. It's basically just a planter box, a series of planter boxes, which is about the size of one of your tables here, 6 inches deep, and it's multi-leveled. So you got, say, 10 square meters of dirt, basically, growing stock food. Now, at present, dairy farms are a prime example. Most of their effluent is treated with water. It's either put back onto the paddocks, whereas parasites and that are being fed to the stock through their effluent that they're eating. It just sits on the grass. They come along 2 weeks later, and it's causing, antibiotics increases potentially. It's a really major problem. Parasites in the stock unit is increasing day after day. This system here would use the effluent from dairy farms. If you kept it dry, you don't use water. The farmers, their dairy sheds, instead of flushing them down into a pond, for example, it's just shoved off their pads and into a pile where it dries. There's no smells or anything involved because there's no water there to break it down. And you basically compost it and use those plant growers to grow your grass to feed your stock. Now, the advantage of this is that A, no water used. B, it raises the stock food in lower water areas. With the climate change and the expected water levels rising, you're going to have food available for stocks in flood times. And they're totally mobile. You could grow them in a planter box like this in areas where there is at present nothing growing. An example would be pine forests and so forth like that, where in my mind it is destroying the country with the growth of pine trees, but that's another topic altogether.
And I find that keeping the effluent dry is a much better way of going about things, and it saves the taxpayers and or ratepayers, should I say, heaps in processed water. And 4, the sewage ponds themselves. They're all in a vulnerable area come the expected sea level rises. And in 15, 20 years' time, and 50, they're expecting, estimates the water levels to be rising at the sea quite considerably. They're called an asset by the council, and in my mind, and to me, they're a liability because I get nothing back for it. I don't get my sewage taken care of in an efficient manner, whereas if in 15, 20 years' time, they're becoming vulnerable to flooding, and therefore they're going to be cause a major problem to future generations. So that's that. And that's just the final point, if I've still got time. Household sewage. Well, I'd like to introduce a system instead of flushing them down the toilet as well. I'd suggest that we do a very similar thing and have a dry system. Like my mind is, you could buy a cassette, sort of the size of a garden shed, that could have your dry turrets basically sitting in a pipe going round and round this garden shed, composting over 6 or 7 years, or even, because there's only, a kilogram of waste, and it can be housed in that situation until it breaks down, and then it can be utilised in also the planter box that you can have in your backyard. And that's it. Any questions?
Questions, team? You're giving the team something to think about, David. Have we exhausted all questions, team? Councillor Herbert.
How many planter boxes will I need for 5,000 ewes, do you think?
Well, I designed the thing to house 1.5 meters of. The beauty of this thing is it grows 24/7. You have one planter box that I say a sheep would eat 1 planter box a day. I don't know how many kilograms a sheep eats, but that's what I'd suggest it would eat. And it grows 24/7. And once it's fed, grazed, the beauty of it is it can be lifted up to the top of the planter box again to regrow. And in 7 days' time, you'll have another load.
You'd have to move 5,000 planter boxes every day.
No.
Well, if one ewes eating one.
I'm not
Possibly.
sorry.
We're getting off the local water done well. Further questions, team? Can I have a clarification probably from Jules? In the back of my mind, that somewhere from an urban perspective, you can't just go off the sewage. Am I right? If you're in a town, you can't go, I'm going to drink rainwater.
There's rules from a building act perspective regarding sewage within the town, but there are half charges even if you aren't on the scheme in terms of the urban areas for availability. So you have to go through a process to make sure you've got a drinking water tank and all those sorts of things to do that within the urban area. So you can go to roof water, but it has to go through a building control. I understand. We'd have to double check that.
What about sewage?
The Building Act, the Building Act prevents you going off sewage in an urban area unless you meet certain rules. So if there is an urban pipe within a certain distance, when you apply for your building consent, it requires you to connect to a sewer. Nice.
Further questions, team?
Can I put a point in there?
If you can do it in 30 seconds, David.
Right. It is the council to regulate that option. So is it possible that they can work towards?
I've always
that way
taken
in
it
the
that it's
future?
government law, it's government legislation that we're going to abide by. Is that right, Jules? For sewage?
It's Building Act, is my
Yes.
understanding.
It's not us.
Right.
Once again, we're getting dropped on from above. But look, David, thank you for the angle that you've come at. You've got the guys thinking, which is good to see, and we appreciate your time. Kia ora.
Thank you.
So just so you know, I've got to get this right. What do we want to do? Because Sharon, the first speaker, has cancelled. Knowing that we've got the community, what time does the community award start? Oh, so this, yeah. You just got to trust the chair, right? Everyone will be comfortable. So if we come back at 4:40, hold on, 14:40.
Is there any more, your worship?
I think it just needs
What do they get? You've got George.
Can we just come to order, team? So I've got an apology from our CEO. He won't be here for the rest of the session. He's had to duck away for reasons that we couldn't control. So can you note that Steve's not here? Thank you. Welcome to members of the public that have come for our final session. It's been a big day, but it's gone well. Enjoyed it. So that you know, team, the first speaker cancelled, the second speaker has already spoken, and the last speaker is cancelled as well. Oh, James Stewart's not here yet. Right, yeah. Okay, then, so all we can do is just roll. So that goes to the next speaker, Clutha Concerned Citizens, which is page 21. It'll be Phil back again. Welcome, Phil. Hold on, it's not 21. Oh, yes, it is. So as you were.
Okay, thank you once again for, oh, yeah, that's loud, isn't it? Wow. Thank you. Thank you once again for having the opportunity to speak. And I'd actually like to say, since I'm here, because I've done all these meetings now all round from Oamaru right down to Otauto, this council has actually done more consultation than all of them probably. Gore didn't even have a public meeting, and Waitaki, I believe, aren't even having a verbal submission. So take your hat off for that. Right. This submission I'm doing is from the Concerned Citizens page, and it's basically a whole lot of stuff that people tell me to say, putting their voice here. This whole proposal was based on assumption, and really the biggest point made was the more people to pay means a bigger saving, when in fact every district in this proposal is accountable for their own debt and water services. Any help from outside the area will simply result in a bill being sent and recovered from the end user. So there's no real benefit in that. Efficiency is not like a light switch to turn on and off. Just because you're joining a CCO doesn't make it more efficient. If that was the case, why hasn't the switch been turned on before? All we need is a quantity surveyor or a proper contracts manager to ensure projects and products are ordered and followed properly. No more pumps lying around ordered incorrectly or bundles of pipes discarded on the side of the road because they weren't used. Buy what is needed and use it correctly. A dedicated accountant for just the water delivery is a great idea. Keeping that separate from council spending and ability to manipulate should have been done years ago. The cost of setting up this alone, and whatever it is that is going to be spent promoting it, is ridiculous for a potential saving of a couple of $100 in many years' time. Inflation will dissolve any small savings that might have made. This decision is being rushed through. I mentioned that myself, and it doesn't have to be. The water plan delivered by September the 3rd is for review, and option 3 can be still submitted for review. Option 3 buys time for the ever-changing regulations to come through. Mayor Cadogan just said in the previous session that option 1 was the only one that was sustainable. Not one of the options are sustainable, and obviously the council has voted to remove the responsibility for using those very
Point
roads.
of order, sir, I didn't say that.
You said last time that it's option 1 is the only one sustainable.
I said option 3 is the one that could fail as a viable water plan on September the 3rd.
Anyway, your option 1 actually states in your consultation document that it might not be sustainable without further input from more councils. We can join a CCO if it doesn't work out. There is no penalty or fine for being added later. Every council receives 1 share, and there is no benefit for being first at the table. The councils that are keeping the services in-house are not running around panicking about the government action, and they know that joining later is always an option. The implementation roadmap that I had before actually clearly states option 3 is for review and acceptance by in December. They're going to start looking at it. As I said before, I was up here a while ago and I asked about where the pushback was. By going for option 3, it actually puts the whole problem back at the government's feet where it should be. You can put option 3 in. If it doesn't work out, time will involve all these ever-changing regulations that are coming into place. We'll have time to sort of be seen and we'll know what we're doing. And we'll be able to see what sort of mess the other councils have got themselves into by doing this. Our Deputy Mayor actually stated at the Risk and Assurance meeting the other day that many of the conditions are unknown and the risks are unknown. Like I've just said, that would actually give us time to see what some of them were. And just from before, the other lever that you could pull instead of rates and borrowing would be to look at where the money's being spent in the first place, rather than trying to work out how to finance it later on. Option 1 is just a continuation of bad practice. And as far as a commissioner goes, if the council won't listen to the ratepayers, we've essentially got a commissioner anyway. There's no real difference. We were just getting told what to do. Thank you.
Questions, team? Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Bill. Just, you mentioned there that, we can wait and see and perhaps join a CCO later. Would you not agree that given our odd situation with the amount of rural water schemes that we have and their wish and our wish to have that recognised as a fourth water, would you not agree that it would be beneficial for us to be there when that foundation document is written and get that written into it then? Joining afterwards when that document's written, you've got no show.
What's the difference when it's written?
You're there to write it if you're there at the start.
But it's still going to be written.
With your input.
The fourth water's in all the things, not just yours.
But if these rural water schemes were there, when that founding document was written, do you not think they'd have a more opportunity to have their say?
I don't see any difference. There's 3 councils already that you're trying to join into this. That fourth water, that whole option's on those. Gore could do the job for us. I mean, what's the difference?
Well, that's all right. The difference would be you'd be getting what you want when you're writing the document. You don't get what you want if someone else writes the document for you.
I don't know. Point's gone. I don't get what you're saying.
Further questions, team? Can I just have a clarification, because it's I think there's a confusion from the what happens from December onwards, where the government advises. So our part stops. If you look, we did this whole thing. Our part stops on September the 3rd. No other day, September the 3rd. That's when we have to have our delivery plan and adopted and submitted to the government. What the government does with it afterwards is, once again, back 100% in their control. If you look at the timeline from June, what is it today? June the 15th. It's about 10 weeks. And you're saying that we've got time. September the 3rd, if a council doesn't have a viable plan submitted, then there are consequences. So the December bit is irrelevant to council for the simple fact that we have a deadline imposed on us of September the 3rd. So we've got to be quite clear where our deadline is.
On September the 3rd. Easy, done.
Whatever option we choose, it's September the 3rd. You were saying December and onwards.
That's what they're reviewing them from. That's your own book that says that.
Yes, but we have to have our part done by September the 3rd. We're only in control of our part, and there's very little control that we have. Further questions, team? If not, thank you for that, Phil.
Good on you. Thank you. Have a good rest of the day.
What are we doing? Oh, hold on. James Stewart is still not here. Am I right with that? So now it's Rex Edgar on page 43. Rex, welcome, Rex. Sorry, with Piccadilly Circus, people here and not here. Thank you for coming and sharing your time with us. Appreciate it. The floor is yours.
Spoken yet. First of all, I was here 6-7 weeks ago and complained about the sound system. The speakers up the back still aren't bloody going. I mean, and another
There's
thing
no
is,
swearing.
I wasn't swearing. You'll know when I do. The next thing is, I was told that the further south I travelled, the friendlier people are. Few people stop for just 20 minutes or something, quarter an hour there, and went and had a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. Nobody in the public was invited. Where's the courtesy? Eh? A bit of common courtesy. We're the ratepayers. We pay for this, and we get nothing. And you always sit there and have a cup of tea in front of you. We get nothing. Eh? What a way to treat people. It's a bit like this water system.
Can I firstly say my apologies, because I think every other session I have, but there was questions. Yeah, okay, fair point.
I make
Every
this
other
complaint,
plumber has.
I make this
But we
complaint
need
to the CEO.
We need to stick to local water, so I apologise
Yes,
for that, because it'll be the first time today.
This is the first chance I get to say something, so you're gonna hear it. Now listen, at the moment, I'm paying my rates, exorbitant as they are, for a water system that doesn't work very well at all. But it's ours. It's paid for. It's been paid for years, and it just needs to be updated. And I'm sure that the council can do that. Probably by not building a swimming pool in Milton might help that. But you know, if I'll put this to you, like everyone here owns a house, I'd imagine, pays a mortgage or whatever. It's theirs. Now, just imagine you just walked out the door one day and said to somebody, "Here's my house, mate. You can run it, and we can stay, and we'll pay your rent." And you have no say over how your house is run, how much rent you pay, pretty much, or anything else to do with it. You just sit there and pay rent for something that you've already paid for. That's our water system that you want us to pay for. The CCO bullshit.
Language, please.
I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
You know, well, it's shite then. Please yourself, but that's the way it goes. What you want us to do is to walk out of our house and walk back into it and pay exorbitant rent, and we have no control over the house. You could come in tomorrow and put a top story on it and charge us more rent. It's the same thing with the water system. You could come and say it's going to cost us more money. And at the end of the day, it's not ours. So I mean, who's that stupid? Who's really that stupid to go give away their house and pay rent for something that they haven't got anymore, that they worked hard to pay for? This is what the ratepayers are doing here. They're going to give away their houses. And if they haven't done it already, they will be from the rates coming. And if you people can't see that, you need your freaking heads read.
Hold on. Let's really pull it in. No swearing, thanks.
I didn't swear at all. You want me to swear?
Keep walking, mate. Just keep walking. Just keep walking.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to finish it. Righto. Where are we with James Stewart?
Where's that chap?
Righto. If that, he is the last one, isn't he?
What about Nathan Diamond's not there?
Yeah, so Nathan had already said he'd cancelled.
It's only his time now.
Should we give James Stewart a ring, or do we have a contact?
It's only his time now.
He's not late yet, he's normally an hour late.
So he's only, if he's.
No.
That's what I'm saying. Do we give him a ring? We're gonna wait. So we'll wait
Give him
for
a
10
ring.
minutes.
Ring him.
2 minutes.
Can we get somebody to ring him?
Sorry, we've called it 4 times.
Oh, thank you.
Right, team, it looks like we've got our last presenter here. Who am I missing? This table's not sitting on. Have we got the recording back on? Looks like we're live and exclusive. So welcome, James. Thank you for coming and helping us today. We haven't had the ability to meet and give you a rundown of what's going on. Yes.
Yeah.
Come round this way, James. So we're just up at the rostrum. My apologies. Normally we would have it. Well, I told the guys at the start of the session, but you're all right. Thank you for coming all the way here to.
I've just put that here. This is for the talk.
Nice.
Things haven't gone quite well today. Technologies.
That's all right. We will get there. Don't worry about
Sorry,
that.
we're not going to be able to put your pictures up, unfortunately. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We're not allowed to put unsecured USBs into the council system. It's a security risk.
Oh, okay.
But if you email them to us, we can circulate them to the councillors.
Okay. Rightio. Right.
More technology problems.
Okay.
Sorry, James.
Sorry. Okay. Right. Well, thank you. Right. I'm opposed. My name's James Stewart. I've back lived in South Otago for a former life for us, but being my base, I've got my university education at Lincoln, and I've done some travelling. But I enjoy living in South Otago, and I believe South Otago offers a very special lifestyle here. But I'm opposed to the CCOs. My preference would be to keep it in house because I've got some things here I'd like to talk about. I'm concerned about the spiralling, increasing costs of managing our water services. I'm quite concerned about that. And but South Otago's got some amazing, some God-given, amazing resources. We've got a reasonably good rainfall. We've got beautiful rivers that flow through it. We've got hills. It gives us gravity. We've got sunlight, and sunlight kills all known bacteria within 5 hours. We've got amazing plants. We've got amazing people in here, and we can use these to our best advantages, especially with these increased costs. Maybe we're going to have to move away from dependent on money to use more in our resources. And I'm aware that each area in South Otago has got its set of problems. For example, Clinton's got its leaky pipes. In Harriet, for example, I've got a workmate who's been on a boil water notice now for 2 years, and there's a huge problems and a wide set of whole spectrum of problems, and so that adds to the problem. But I believe not from employing another group, but going back to the people. I believe the problem, if for example, if Clinton has no water, or we'll say Buckley doesn't have no water, I don't believe it's the council's problem. I believe it's our problem, and I think we've got to come back to our own resources. I've also read just a summary of the UK experience of privatisation of the water supply, and it wasn't convincing at all. And if you councillors had a look at the overseas experience, for example, the UK,
we laboured on the Scottish water model, but we definitely looked at all of them.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Right. I'm a plants person, and I'm going to give you a bias. Do you know the, is Tim Cadogan is he?
My dim-witted brother.
Okay. Is he, you're
Shorter, fatter, younger.
No, is he older? You're
He's younger.
Oh, good. So you've got seniority.
Absolutely, in every way.
Well, anyway, he was involved in the Catchment Thompson project. Well, this is, I had some a short video of it, and I'll explain some of these plants here. These are Carrick sector, and I'm not sure if you want to.
Councillors want them.
Right. These are Carrick sector, and these are amazing. These are God's gift, basically, for everyone to use. They're amazing plant. They can, for example, I had pictures of them that they can be covered for long periods of time, up to here, and they'll still keep growing. They absorb incredible amounts of nutrient and sediment, so they're purifying our waters. They've got a lot of, when they get up, they form in high flows. They lean over, and their foliage protects the soil. And in the video I was going to show you, they've planted 48,000 Carrick sector in this area, and it's basically a series a bit like this, but more. It's a big S-bend of where the water goes deep, shallow, up to about 40 centimetres, then deep again, and then shallow again, deep again, shallow again. And they've planted all these Carrick sector. They've planted the whole waterway, so it acts as a filter. And so this, they're purifying the water, and and they're working when you and I are sleeping. They're doing a good job. They're doing what they're supposed to do, and also for that, you'll be aware that they drew on everybody. They didn't. They had landowners. They had farmers. They had business people. Our business was involved in it. They had volunteers, and now they've got kids running it, so that they're getting the kids are learning how to monitor to their water. And I think a project like this where people are involved. I've also got if we get people involved and keep it in-house, keep it local, keep it with everyone focusing on on what's in hand rather than getting thinner, I think it leaves us in control. And here's another thought. This is what I'm giving you is just a concept. These are some different mediums. That's sand. If you have a look around, I'll have a look at that one there, and that's the next one up. That's chip, and that goes from about 2.5 to 6. But the amazing thing about that one is that it's got really good ear space in it, and it will not lose its ear space. Whereas if you look at the ear space in that sand, you can push that down and you can lose your ear space, but you'll always have that ear space in that chip. And ear space is really important for growing plants. And for example, when you come, if we wanted to make a PVC filter with a hydroponic one, we can set up pipes with Carrick sector growing in them to help remove nutrient. And so there's I believe there's a lot of resources out there as far as our people are concerned, and to keep our costs down. I think we've got to keep it local and draw on the people. And this is just one idea. There's other things I've seen, but that if you set up a hydroponic system using, for example, carrot sector, I think there's a real possibility to filter water cheaply, and it's working like it's working while we're sleeping. Yes, so I would like to see go back to our roots and to our people, rather than moving it. We've got less and less control. Yeah.
Thank you. James, questions?
Yes.
Councillor Finch.
Thank you. Mine is in relation to this. In our water ponds, what did we have planted there, Jules, Steve? We had some.
For you, I don't know off the top of my head, but it is some sort of grassy, reedy type plant.
Yes, and then they didn't.
Some have died, some have grown. It's a bit hit and miss.
Yes, thank you.
Those are constructed wetlands.
Yes.
Yeah. What I had a video of is constructed wetlands as well, and it genuinely it seems to be doing all right. Yes.
Can I ask, James? I'm not being smart here. I'm just trying to put rigour to the argument. The biggest area I know and it's not that, but it's everything. It's the Marflat catchment. And, you know, we trenched up there to the outlet, inlet, whatever it was, and we were surrounded by this beautiful native area that council bought so that no stock, nothing will happen. We've had nothing but problems. We can't get off boil water notices up there and the like. And then the other one was when I looked at that and I just saw like bifilter. We've had mediums where it goes through and went all the way through to the Dunedin High Court was the last time I had a close look at it. Well, I get this and I really appreciate it and I love your passion. But our problem is that the government's come and said 3 options. 3rd of September, do it. And time for this, and time for, you know, like, just, what I'm trying to say is I love the passion and I can see it. I'm thinking, geez, there are other ways of doing it. But right at the moment, we've got 10 weeks to deliver a viable water plan. We're reading through thousands of hours of books and submissions and whatever. I love the passion.
Yeah.
But I can't see how I can thread it into 10 weeks with a gun at my head.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, it's blooming hard going at the moment.
Yep.
And I'm still, because I love that sort of carrot, I'm trying to do the similar down home.
Yep.
But what do we do right now when we're 10 weeks away, when the government's putting through laws to put an economic regulator in next month, when the water plan's got to get delivered or there are consequences? And I'm trying to articulate to you the ghastly situation that we're in. And I love the passion and I don't want to in any way qualm the passion.
Yeah.
Can I just ask another question?
Yeah, go for it, Gaynor.
Thank you. Has this been trialled just on sewage and where and how long did it work for? Do you know any of those?
It was used up in Calder and Stewart. They just did it. They had some creeks. I'll just use here. They had creeks that were, and they were sort of like a ditch. And instead of making a ditch, leaving it as a ditch, they made swales. And so they opened it right out.
It stopped my water flow going away. You're not allowed to plant in the bottom of ditches of a regional council drain.
Okay, right. Well, they put okay.
It wasn't for sewage.
No. This one was from runoff from the next door neighbours, and
Yeah, that dirty.
Oh, filthy. You've hit the wrong one. You've hit
Okay.
So change now if I was you. They flooded my yard.
Okay. Right, team. Let's get back on track. Questions
So
for
have they
James?
worked in sewage, just in sewage issues elsewhere that have lasted
I
for
have.
years?
I've tried very hard to get hold of some information, but I couldn't. I was only using Google, and they seem to
yeah, it would have been good to have some concrete figures, but every situation will be different. There'll be different sorts of loading, there'll be different sorts of sediment. But I do know, if you have a look at the base of those, you can see they've got quite an amazing
Root structure.
fibrous root system that actually does absorb, sorry, I'll put these back in, that does absorb a lot of nutrient and
Because I have them planted in our shelter bouts at home and I know about that for that
So-
reason. It was just
So, James, what I suggest is, you know that I'm a frequent flyer